Chinese Premier Xi Jinping met the Russian Prime Minister in Beijing on November 3rd. Why does the world care? Because just days before this crucial meeting between the old allies and competitors, Donald Trump and Xi Jinping had met. What's more interesting, it wasn't in Europe or in the America. Well, it seems like China is going all out to corner the United States on every single platform that matters, be it on economic, military, diplomatic, moral, or ideological front. China is not playing defensive. China is not waiting. China is not hedging its bet on a distant future. While America's leadership remains distracted with tariff calculations and bilateral deal making, Beijing is perhaps executing a masterclass in multidirectional strategic offensive that would even make Sun Tzu nod in recognition. When Xi Jinping walked into that room with Donald Trump in South Korea, it wasn't just a meeting between equals retreating from a conflict. It was a calculated moment in a much larger play. Trump came, stayed for only 90 minutes and left feeling he had won. But here's where the real game reveals itself. While Trump was flying home, perhaps celebrating what might have felt like a bilateral victory to him, Xi remained in the theater. Xi didn't leave South Korea. Why? Because there was other leaders to meet, other powers to align with, and most importantly, other international stages where the American president had already announced his absence. Well, in this edition of From the News Desk, we'll tell you how China is pushing US to the corner on every platform that matters. And this, even after Donald Trump projected, all is well with Xi Jinping. So come along and know exactly what and how China is doing it, and how Xi's hectic parlays might put US in a very difficult position. Mark Carney, Canada's new Prime Minister, sat down with Xi Jinping on October 31st. Think about what happened in that room. Here was a leader representing America's neighbor, America's oldest ally, and perhaps America's closest trading partner. And where he was? In China, accepting an invitation from Xi Jinping. Carney described the meeting as turning point in Canada-China relations. Well, he agreed to visit Beijing. You may ask why. Because while Trump threatens tariffs, while Trump pressures Canada into corner with ultimatums, Xi extended an open hand. And within hours, literally within hours, Japan's Prime Minister was meeting Xi Jinping. Here's America's cornerstone alliance in Asia. Here's the nation that hosts American military bases, that stands with Washington on Taiwan, that fears China's expansion. And yet, there she was in bilateral talks with Xi, discussing strategic interest and long-term engagement. Well, what message does this send? It sends the message that even America's closest allies are keeping their options open. In fact, it also shows that Beijing is available, that Beijing is interested, that Beijing, unlike Washington, is willing to sit at the table. It also makes it clear to the USA that they may have taken the title of leaders of the free world, but you cannot do business without the dragon. Now let's talk about the Russian piece of the puzzle. On November 3rd, Xi Jinping met with Russian Prime Minister. This wasn't just a courtesy call. This was a strategic statement dressed in a diplomatic language. These two countries, Russia and China, are deepening military cooperation, coordinating on artificial intelligence, synchronizing on energy, and most importantly, aligning on cross-border payments, and also building systems that deliberately circumvent American dominance. They are not just partners anymore, they are operational bloc partners. They are constructing parallel infrastructure, financial system, technological standards, and also military protocols that reduces dependency on American-led institutions. And while they are doing this, what is America doing? Imposing tariffs, threatening sanctions, lecturing the world about rule of law, playing zero-sum games. But here's where it truly gets sophisticated. China isn't just playing bilateral diplomacy. China is playing the multilateral stage in a way that makes Washington look isolated, outdated, and morally bank corrupt. At the United Nations General Assembly, a vote emerged on American embargo against Cuba. Well, America has maintained a blockade on this small Caribbean island nation. And when the world voted on ending it, the results were devastating for Washington. 165 nations voted to end the embargo. Only 7 voted with the United States. Now here comes China. China voted for the 33rd consecutive year in favor of ending the American blockade. China's position was crystal clear. For the decades, United States has been implementing a brutal blockade and illegal sanctions against Cuba, which seriously violates basic international norms. Just think about it. What happened in that vote? China positioned itself as the defender of international law. China positioned itself as the protector of small nation against American bullying. Well, China has been increasingly taking the moral high ground, while Trump has been alienating age-old allies with his America First propaganda, and it is all part of the strategy. In this new age, Asia has already taken the center stage, with the world realizing it cannot revolve without China and India. Here's what China understands that Washington doesn't. Power in the 21st century isn't just about military might. It's about presence. It's about showing up. It's about alignment. It's about offering alternatives. It's about positioning yourself on the right side of the history.